Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Divas That Care Network. My name is Candace Gish, and I'm the founder of this program, and I'm just so excited that each and every one of you has tuned in today. We've been broadcasting now for over 9 years. We have 11 different hosts on our program, and we're heard all around the world now. I'm just so excited, and it's because of all of you listeners that have been tuning into us over the years. It's why we're doing it, and, I want to thank you so much. Today, we're going to have a great, amazing guest today. Her and I have been trying to get her on our program for a while now, and I'm just excited because I know she's going to be a lot of fun today, and I know she's going to be sharing some amazing things with all of you today. Our guest today is Charmaine Hammond, and Hammond. Did I say that correctly? I hope I did.
You did.
And I'm just excited to have her.
I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, this was a story between you and I. We've been trying to get you on here for a while, and I'm excited because you have so many fantastic things that you are doing, Charmaine, and I can't wait to get to know you better. So would you mind sharing with all of our listeners today a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I have, probably like lots of your listeners, I have kind of one of these interesting career paths. I started out working in jails. I was a correctional officer for 10 years, working in adult prisons and then working in young offender facilities. And that's what really inspired me to start learning more about conflict resolution and how we resolve disputes, because believe you me, there is a lot of conflict in the jail system, not only with the inmates, but with the staff. And then I went back to school and got a master's in conflict analysis and management and opened up a mediation company. And then I started doing a lot of speaking and training on conflict, and that led to me writing some books, and then we adopted a crazy dog who had separation anxiety and cost me thousands of dollars. So I wrote a book about him. And interestingly enough, the way that we got Toby's behavior under control was to actually get him a job as a therapy dog at a hospital. And so he and I volunteered for 4 years as a volunteer team, and then sort of that experience led to what I do today, helping business owners be able to work in collaboration and partnership with one another. I have a company called Raise a Dream, and my other company, Hammond International, I do speaking, training, and consulting around building healthy, resilient teams that manage conflict well.
Wow. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And I kind of have an understanding of a lot of your background here, and I like it because we were commenting on each other's phone numbers, and you're an Alberta girl,
Yes.
and but you moved to Vancouver, and I want to ask you how that transpired, because I think that's part of your little journey that you've got going on here.
Yes, and the move actually started before that. I'm from Ontario originally, so I lived about an hour away from Toronto and grew up there, and then moved to Alberta, northern Alberta, to be specific, Fort McMurray, and where it's very cold for a very long period of time, and lived there for about 16 years prior to moving to central Alberta and Edmonton area. And, the move, what's really interesting for me is that moves taught me a lot about resilience and about being flexible and adaptable, because if you think about it, every time you move, you're meeting a new circle of friends, a new circle of colleagues, and people to be connected with. And I've got to say, the one thing that's been very cool for me with these different moves that we've made in life is how social media has helped me connect with people in the communities that I moved to. And, it wasn't like that years and years ago when I moved from Ontario to Fort McMurray, when internet was just becoming a thing.
And I love that, because you talk about resilience, and I like that, how you're talking about, because sometimes we get lost. There's some of us that really, my husband calls me a gypsy because I love to move. I love to move to different places, and it could be that my father was in the Army and I was an Army brat, because we moved from Ontario to Alberta. And I think, what, I have that in me. I just want to keep going. And a lot of people find that very awkward. They're like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I've been to, I think I was in 9 schools growing up, and it was always great because I always felt, I'm like, oh, but we get to meet new people all the time. Isn't that fun? And others would be like, what? What are you kidding? I don't want to meet new people. I don't want to move. And my husband kind of was in that family. He's like, I don't want to move. So when I took him out of his comfort zone, he's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? So let's talk about that, because I think it's quite interesting, because it's not just resilience within, that, but within getting a new job, joining new organizations. So let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I love what you've talked about. You were mentioning perspective, the way that you saw change being so very different from other people and even your husband. And I think I'm in the same camp as you. I actually really like change. I also very much appreciate stability. So I kind of straddle these two worlds. And when we moved to Vancouver, which was about probably 4 years ago now, I already had a lot of contacts and friends in Vancouver that I had met over the years, and a ton of Facebook and Twitter people that I was connected to. And part of sort of how I built my resilience and created connections was actually reaching out to people that I was connected with on social media and letting them know that I was moving close to them and would welcome the opportunity to have a conversation or share with me the places they think I should go and visit as a new member of this community. And it took me out of my comfort zone, because it is like meeting new friends, because a Facebook friend is very different than when, you meet them in person. But it was been very interesting for me how social media has really led relationships. In fact, I was at a conference yesterday and I was speaking at the event, and one of the people that was there I recognized from LinkedIn. I'm a follower on LinkedIn, and so I that was the introduction. I think we're connected on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden it made the conversation so much more comfortable, because it was already like we had a connection. So when I look at my first move,
love that tip.
Yeah, it's not awkward. It's sort of like we're already connected, so now we're just going to deepen the relationship, or get to know each other better, which was very different from my first move from Ontario to Fort McMurray before the days of Facebook. And it really was like going to school. You were meeting everybody, for the first time.
And I love that. I just think that's brilliant, because a lot of people are thinking, okay, social media is a good thing. It can be a bad thing. It's what you make it. I truly believe that. You can either take it as a good thing or a bad thing. And I like it as that good thing. I'm like, I'm going to meet people. I'm going to see what their interests are. How can we connect? How can we network? And I always say, how can I get them on my radio show? Because I love what those women are doing. I'm like, I want to interview them, because I know they can share so much.
Yes. Yeah. And I've met so many incredible women. It's interesting how social media can support you in two ways. I've been to different events, women's events, for example, and I meet these incredible women who just inspire me, and then I want to stay in touch with them. And, of course, people are so emailed to death right now that email just feels like work, even if you're reaching out to connect. So I've found that, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn have really helped me stay connected with these incredible women I've met, and be able to still have conversations with them and not sort of plug up our email. The other piece that you were talking about that I wanted to circle back to was how you see change. And when you were talking about that you saw change as exciting, it was an opportunity, that's how I found that I had to cope, because the first move I found exciting and difficult at the very, very same time. And since moving several other times, I see it much like you, Candace, where it's an opportunity, that this is a positive thing. And I think the way we look at things in our life, whether it's a move or anything else that's happening in our life, how we think about it shapes not only how we respond to it or react, it shapes how we communicate it to other people. It even shapes the way that we're going to form relationships with people. And I think you just hit on something so important when you were talking about our perception of things. It really does shape pretty much everything.
That's awesome. And, I do. I always think about analogies like, do you look at the glass half empty or half full? And I think I've always lived my life that way. Life is too short. So you gotta grab it and just go for it. And it looks like you have too. I'm kind of reading over the stuff that you've done. You're a co-producer of an animated film, and I'd like to just kind of talk a little bit about that, because of how you did live in Alberta and you kind of moved away. But can you kind of mention a little bit about that? Because it's so diverse on the things that you've done, and it really makes you one of those amazing divas out there that I love to showcase.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, one thing that's been consistent in my whole life is collaborating with other people and getting behind projects that matter and make a difference. And so a colleague of mine had written a beautiful screenplay that's based on the forest fires that happened in northern Alberta in Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo region. And so the film is going to come out. It's an animated film that comes out in fall of 2020 and is really meant to be a conversation starter to encourage people to talk about topics like resilience and mental health and how we come together as a community after disaster happens. And the intent of the film was to be able to help any community that's going through crisis or disaster. And what's so enjoyable for me to be a part of this project is that it is rooted in collaboration. So we have a number of organizations and non-government organizations, nonprofits, charities, associations that we are building relationships with to be able to get this message out when the film comes out in the fall. And we'll be releasing lots of details in the very early new year in 2020. But it is incredible to look at how a real-life event that happens that impacted people so dramatically many years later, it's 3.5 years later now, can still have an impact on helping people around the world. And that's what really jazzes me about this project.
Well, I think it's a great project, and I can't wait to hear more about it. And I think if you're interested, I'd love to have you back on when everything is you're going to be getting ready to get it out there. We would love to be a part of that.
Oh, I'd love to. I can't wait to be able to share who the voices are in the animated film and who's singing the music. And yes, I will be singing that from the rooftop. So I would love to come back on and talk about that and the sort of the making. What's been really interesting for me as well is sort of how all this comes together. It's just been an incredible learning opportunity. And as a writer myself, I've written a number of books. I've never written a screenplay, but so it's been wonderful for me learning from the screenwriter, Michael Mankowski, about, the making of a screenplay and how does this all get put together.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. And just, it's amazing how a person can get involved in something like that. But I want to kind of talk about the one thing you did mention is the collaborating. And that's something that I'm very big about. I really think it's important that we collaborate with others. We cannot do anything on our own. It's impossible. And to realize that, you can give up some of that goal, and really work with another person, amazing things can happen.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, I think naturally I'm probably a bit of a collaborator. As an adult, I think as a child, I was really painfully shy. So collaboration was kind of scary. And if I collaborated, it would be with my best friend, one person. And as I sort of grew out of shyness, I started to really value collaboration. I mean, my experience has been that any project I've done through a collaborative approach, whether it's writing books with other authors, whether it's holding an event, doesn't matter what the project is, collaboration can just get you to your goal or even something bigger than your original goal quicker, easily. It can also be really bumpy, though. I have worked on collaborations, and I don't know if you have had this experience, Candace, or any of your listeners, but the collaboration starts out great, and then somewhere it goes crazily sideways. and I unfortunately, when I was a mediator many years ago, what really got me interested in learning how to teach people how to collaborate was because I saw so many broken relationships come to my office for mediation that had started out with two friends, mostly women, who had developed a partnership or a collaboration, either in a business or on a project, and they didn't have clear boundaries and roles and agreements on how they're going to work together. And then somewhere along the way, things went sideways. Somebody felt like they were pulling more weight than the other person. And what happened was that these relationships became challenged. In some cases, friendships, long-term friendships ended. And I sort of went on a mission at that point to say, maybe not everybody is a natural collaborator, or maybe people need support or training or guidance on how to set up a collaboration so that it succeeds. And if things get bumpy, messy, or go sideways, the friendship or relationship doesn't have to end. And that's what I've been spending a lot of time on over the last number of years, is helping people collaborate effectively so people's big dreams get launched and relationships don't get harmed.
I love that. And can I ask you, I know this is kind of probably a weird question, but do you find that you work in regards to collaboration, the relationship part of it, is it women that have the harder time with that?
Oh, I love that question. What I will say is, I've never really tracked the stats, but what I can say from my experience and what I notice, and this could be because I am in many, many circles with other women authors, women entrepreneurs, women speakers, but I do see that there are, that women sometimes have other challenges in collaboration, and part of that is because this is coming from women that I've worked with on collaborations, they value the relationship so much that they fear addressing things when it goes bumpy or sideways because they don't want to harm the relationship. But what ends up happening is because the issue is not addressed, the relationship becomes harmed anyway. And so I love it when when women are building a collaboration where they have those conversations early. Conversations like, what will we do if things go sideways? Or how are we going to handle it in working together if one of us feels like we're pulling, a stronger load, or one of us feels like it's not a fair deal here? How can we expect one another to handle it? Because if you can frame those awkward conversations that are difficult for many people, if you can make it comfortable and safe at the beginning to talk about when things are really good, if things go sideways, it's a lot easier to bring it up later.
That's a great tip, because I've kind of seen it too, where a lot of women have the collaboration and things don't always end the best. And you think, okay, is there something that could have happened before? And what you're saying is, yeah, there could have been those conversations and it might not have got to where it ended up.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of times when you're collaborating with people that you haven't had a prior relationship with, which has been my journey lots as well over the years, then what you're into is a process of building trust, building relationship, and those things take time. And so sometimes the struggle in those scenarios is that, if you imagine yourself standing with one leg on either side of a line, one leg, that side of the line is building trust, building relationship, honoring agreements, and then the other part is getting the project done. And so people are trying to balance both of those, and trust is not quick forming for a lot of people. So often that can slow down a collaboration, but it's important to stick with it.
I love it. I absolutely love the tips that you're giving today. But before I ask you to leave your social media and how people get a hold of you, tell us about these 2 new books that are coming out this year. Well, you have one coming out in October and then one coming out in 2020. So will you share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. As a writer, I always get these ideas, time for another book. And, what's interesting, the book that's coming out this fall is called Working Better Together. And that's a book about the work I do in my corporate world, teaching people about working better together in the workplace. So about resilience, conflict resolution, and communication. So I'm really excited about that book because all of my books that I've written actually are not about what I teach and speak on in my professional life. So this is a really important one for me to get out. And then in the new year, I'm actually going to be tackling a couple of new books. One of them will be a new children's book to go with my series of Toby children's books. So I'll be writing a story called Toby and His Forever Family, which is about adoption. And I used to work in adoptions when I was a social worker years ago. And we discovered that our journey in adopting our dog Toby mirrored some of the things that families experience and children experience waiting for their forever family to come into their life. And so we thought we could tell a story that would be supportive and helpful to children through the eyes of our dog. So that'll be a fun one. And what I enjoy most about my children's books is my best friend of many, many years. We met when we were 4 years old. Roseanne Previck is the illustrator for those books. So you can imagine how
Aww.
precious these are to me.
Oh, I can just imagine. What a wonderful story.
So lots of fun stuff coming up in what's left of 2019 and venturing into 2020.
Well, that's exciting, and I can't wait to see those and, share it with all of our amazing tribe, the Divas, because I think they would really love that. And you know what? I love this. I've had such a great time, Charmaine. Can you tell us how we can get a hold of you to learn more about your books, to learn more about all your businesses and the things that you're doing?
Absolutely. My web pages are CharmaineHammond.com, Charmaine's with a C, or raiseadream.com. And I'm on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. And you can find me at Raise a Dream or Charmaine Hammond on social media. And it's me who does my own social media. So I love connecting with people and actually do my own communications on social media.
Well, that's excellent, and we'll definitely be getting a hold of you. Well, thank you so much. I had such a great time. I can't wait to have you back on the program.
Thank you. I would love that. Thank you so much, and thanks to all your listeners.
One thing, you know what? Let's just end it this way, Charmaine. Is there any last-minute tips, things that you'd love to share with our listeners today?
I love that question. Here's what I'm going to say today, based on the conversations we had, is that what can help us so much in life is having what I call the courageous dialogue, which is that conversation that matters most and is mostly avoided. So if there's something getting in the way, if you're in a collaboration that's gone a bit sideways, have the conversation. Even if it feels awkward or messy, it feels awkward and messy when we don't get it addressed. So it's about having that courageous dialogue.
Beautiful tip. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I want to take a moment also just to thank all of our listeners that are supporting us for the last 9 years. As I mentioned earlier, it's because of all of you that we've continued to do this program. We thank you so much. And make sure that you check out all of our other hosts and their programs at divasthatcare.com. We have some great things that are going to be transpiring in 2020 also with our social media platforms, and I hope that you stay tuned for all those great changes that are going to be taking place where you can connect with the host. So thanks again to our amazing guests, and thank you to all of you guys. I hope that each and every one of you has an amazing day and that you do something kind. Take care for now. Bye-bye.